If you're getting into the hobby and starting to build your own collection at home, there's an important decision you'll eventually be forced to make, and that is, what quality of cabinet restoration are you aiming for? Do you want machines that look 100% factory spec with brand new artwork and not a scratch on them? Or do you want them looking more like they've been pulled straight out of a bar from the 80s, warts and all? I know a lot of collectors like to wax poetic about patina, that natural wear and tear that gives the machines that well-played look. Pac-Man is a classic example here. Those side areas that tend to get death gripped while the player is in the zone trying to gobble dots and avoid ghosts, that's patina at its prime. Many collectors like that well-worn look. These machines were meant to be played, and that wear is a natural part of the game's history. To which I say, fair enough. There is something extremely nostalgic about seeing those well-used control panels, especially when you're on location at a barcade. However, when I'm at home with my collection, there is a different kind of vibe. I want to walk out into the garage with a cold beer, drop in a quarter, and enjoy the experience of a well-maintained machine. And part of that experience, for me at least, is a very clean and well-trimmed cabinet. Because of this, I tend to look for cabinets that have been completely stripped down to the plywood so that I have the opportunity to restore them back 100% brand new with basically everything. However, I'm also practical. There are times when I've obtained what I refer to as a 70% machine. These are cabinets that are in overall great condition with only some minor wear. They're in too good of shape to do comprehensive restoration on, and yet there's just some minor touch-ups that can be done to get it to 80 or 90%. And that's what this video is about. Simple, cosmetic changes that can elevate your game from, ooh, that looks dirty, to, wow, what a great looking cabinet. Alright, let's take a look at this Battlezone cabinet. Ignoring the step at the bottom, everything on this cabinet looks really nice. Side art looks really good. There's no obvious damage on the front of the cabinet. So why do I consider this a 70% cabinet? Well, let's take a little bit closer look at the control panel and you'll see. We've got some faded and flakiness on the instruction card, a little more severe flaking on this side, and all of these screws across the top of the panel were rusted. We've got some flakiness on the control panel paint, more rusted screws, and a bit of scratching on the coin door. So if we step back and look at this, it doesn't look awful, but it kind of looks a little dirty or grody. Don't get me wrong, if I saw this in a barcade or something, I would definitely go put a quarter in and play it. But if I'm having guests over at the house and I want to show them my collection and we want to play, I'd like that to be cleaned up a bit. I'll also show you what I did to take care of this kind of ugly looking step at the bottom. Alright, so let's remove all those rusted screws and get the control panel and coin door off this machine. As I pull off the screws, I like to throw them in a Ziploc baggie with a post-it note and some writing so I know where each grouping of screws goes, because otherwise I won't remember. So here they are grouped up. We're going to pull some of these screws out of here and start to remove the rust on them so we can paint them. Now all you need is a piece of sandpaper, but if you've got a Dremel handy and one of these wire brushes, it kind of speeds things up a bit. Not necessary, but if you've got a bunch of screws, this makes it a bit easier. On these first set of screws, these first two are a little more rusted than the third one there, but really all we want to do is just knock the rust off there. They don't have to be super shiny, but you just want to make sure they're smooth because we're going to be putting some paint on top of here in a bit. So for painting, to make things a little bit easier, I like to use just a piece of cardboard, kind of stab some holes in there and put all your screws in. Also write down where you got the screws from so you don't get them mixed up later. We're going to be using this Rust-Oleum Black high-performance enamel spray paint. And this goes really quick. You just need a quick blast from left to right just to get it covered there. I like to do 2 coats, the second coat after 15 minutes just to make sure everything's filled in. And then after you've got both coats, I usually wait 24 to 48 hours. 48 hours is probably a little overkill, but it's nice not to have these things be tacky when you're trying to reinstall them onto the cabinet. So here's a couple of the screws. They're looking pretty good. That enamel works really nicely and it holds up pretty well too. Alright, I'm gonna pull those off, throw them back in the bag so I don't lose them. Next up is the control panel. Before I can do anything with the overlay, I need to take the controls out. So I'll flip that over and pull them out. And what you're gonna see here on the front is the overlay for me just falls right off because it was already flaking and peeling. If yours is still sticking, you're gonna need like a hairdryer or a heat gun and like a putty knife, something that will allow you to scrape it off of there. But I got lucky here, this was super easy to pull off. Just gonna sand it down, try to hit the area on the front that had the paint flakes, and get it ready for painting. We're gonna use that same Rust-Oleum black enamel. You can see here that I needed to come back and scrape some more of that flaking area because it looked like it was gonna be problematic, and then hit it with some more paint again there. If that's a problem in the future, that one's pretty easy to repaint. All right, so here's the new overlay and the old one. The new one is from escapepodonline.com. They do some really nice reproductions. You can see that my control panel has a little bit different art, and the reproduction is actually correct. So I'm not sure if my cabinet had an earlier run of artwork or why it was different there, but no big deal. This new one looks really great, so we're gonna go ahead and get it trimmed down to size, make sure it matches up with the area that it covered on the original. And we're gonna go ahead and line it up with painter's tape. I kind of feel the indentations of the buttons to make sure it's all lined up where it needs to be. I'm gonna tape that on there, and to apply, you just pull it back, cut off the backing, and then push it down gently. I'll zoom out here to the other side so you can see that a little better. Once that's on there, you can use an X-Acto knife to cut out the indentations for the controls. You don't have to be super exact here because the controls generally cover up that area around, so if it's a little bit jagged, that's fine. It'll just be covered up. All right, now that the control panel overlay is on, I'm gonna clean up the controls. These are in really good shape. They just needed a little bit of cleaning to get some of the grime out of the joystick areas, but otherwise they're good to go. And now I'm gonna reinstall these back onto the panel. And here's the final result there. It looks so much better already. The colors just pop and it looks nice and clean. Next up is the coin door. I'm gonna go ahead and remove all of the hardware off of my coin door before I paint it. Now that's not always necessary. Sometimes you can just use some painter's tape and mask off the areas that you don't want to hit with paint. But in this case, there's a lot of areas that need paint inside of the coin return slots, and then each of the bezels around the coin return buttons needs some work. So I'm just gonna pull it all off. I'm gonna clean it up. I use just a mixture of warm water, dish soap, and vinegar. Kind of scrub that down really good. After it's clean, rinse it all off, let it dry, and then same thing for all the little pieces. Soak them in that solution and give them a good scrub as well. For painting, we're going to use Rust-Oleum again. This time we're going to be using the black hammered version, and this has a little bit of a texture, which the coin doors usually do to hide those scratches and stuff. So you want to make sure you get the hammered version to match that texture. Again, 2 coats here, 15 minutes apart. Same with all the little coin door accessories. And you can see here that it looks almost brand new, nice and shiny, textured, exactly what we want to see. And it's time to get all the screws and hardware back on here. This is a great reason that I use the screws in the bags method, because otherwise I wouldn't remember where all this stuff goes. And you can see here, again, almost looks brand new. Super shiny, looks great. Now we're going to put all of this stuff back on the cabinet, starting with the coin door, and then followed by the control panel. And as for the step, normally I would do some Bondo work and repair the edges of the cabinet and replace the T-molding, but since it is a step and it's just going to be stood on again, it's probably not going to last that long. So I improvised and just cut out a weather mat, cut it down to size, and then tacked it on with a staple gun. And we're done. Here's some before and afters to show the improvement. These few minor touch-ups make a world of difference in my opinion. We've gone from a slightly dirty looking 70%er machine to a very clean 90+% machine. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.